You are nothing but a burden." My daughter said it so clearly that her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. And Dylan froze like someone had unplugged the entire room. The words hung there, sharp and cold. And for a moment, all I heard was the faint clink of a glass settling on the table. That was the hook of the night, the line that split everything open. The line I never imagined would come from my own child. My name is Iris Calloway. I am 67 years old. I sat across from Aubrey, watching the confidence on her face settle into something harder, something practiced. She had rehearsed this in her mind. I could feel it. Dylan looked between us, uneasy, as if he had suddenly found himself in a story he did not understand. I kept my hands folded, steady on my lap. Years of nursing floors, late shifts, and raising a child alone had taught me how to hold still when life tried to shake me apart. A burden, she repeated, softer this time. You make everything heavier. I breathed in slowly. I had been many things in my life, tired, broke, overwhelmed, but never a burden. Not once. Not even on the nights I dragged myself home after 12-hour shifts. Or the mornings I paid bills that were not mine because Aubrey insisted she would get back on her feet soon. I let the silence stretch until she finally lifted her chin, daring me to argue. I did not raise my voice. I did not tremble. I simply leaned back, placed my palm on the table, and said the one sentence I knew she could not outrun. Then tell me who has been paying your rent, your utilities, and your credit cards all these years. The words cracked through the room. Aubrey blinked. Dylan's jaw tightened. No one moved. I saw the moment truth began to rise behind her eyes. The moment she realized the ground beneath her was not as solid as she believed. Their faces told me everything. What came next? The unraveling. The truth. The years behind this moment. That is where the story really begins. Aubrey's voice still echoed in my head long after I left her apartment. And as I walked home that night, memory pulled me backward back to the years when it was just the two of us. My husband died when Aubrey was 6. The morning the doctor said the words, I remember gripping the bed rail so tight my knuckles went white. By afternoon, I was signing papers alone. By evening, I was figuring out how to pay for everything he left behind. People offered condolences, casseroles, and fading sympathy. No one offered to stay. I took the night shifts at Legacy Good Samaritan Hospital because they paid a little more. 12 hours, often 14. I'd come home with aching feet, peel off my scrubs, and tiptoe into Aubrey's room to make sure she was breathing. She'd curl toward the door like she sensed me. Mom, you're home. She'd whisper when she woke. I'm here, sweetheart, I'd say, even though I'd be gone again in a few hours. When she turned 16, her first car broke down on a rainy morning. She called in tears. I can't get it to start. Mom, I'll handle it, I told her. And I did. $800 for repairs. Then another $500 when the radiator failed. College came next. Student loans scared her. Mom, I don't want to drown in debt. You won't, I said. I took extra shifts. Paid every bill I could. Rent, insurance, medical copays, surprise fees, whatever threatened her. I smothered before she saw it. She grew up believing life should feel soft. One night, years later, she looked at a bill on the counter and sighed. Mom, can you just take care of this? Dylan and I are tight this month. I nodded, as I had for years, paying each unexpected bill quietly. Walking home after that dinner, I felt the weight of years of saying yes, of paying in silence. My life's edges were starting to fray. Aubrey didn't become who she was overnight. It happened slowly, almost quietly. Shaped by people who meant well but never saw the consequences. When she was young, neighbors would bend down to her level and say, You're going places. Aubrey, you're special. Teachers said she had a spark. Friends told her she was meant for more. I heard it so often, I started believing it too, even when I worked double shifts just to keep her world steady. One afternoon when she was 14, she tossed her backpack onto the couch. "Mom, everyone says I should aim big. Miss Kincaid says I'm not like other kids." "You're bright," I said, "but life still takes effort." She shrugged. "People like me don't need to worry about money or responsibility," she said. Scrolling her phone, those words stayed with me. Portland changed too. Social media turned everything into a performance. Perfect apartments, perfect brunches, perfect lives. Aubrey followed influencers who made struggling look like a moral failure. Soon, she started talking like them. "Mom, I deserve a certain lifestyle," she once said. Scrolling her phone, "It's who I'm meant to be." Dylan entered the picture later, impressed by the confidence she carried. "She's incredible." He told me, "She just has that energy." I nodded, even though I knew the truth. Her confidence wasn't magic. It was built on years of cushions I created. Bills handled, problems erased, consequences softened. She thought the world bent for her. She never learned it was me holding it steady. The shift started with a single notification. A bank alert I didn't recognize flashed across my phone while I was folding laundry at my kitchen table. Automatic payment processed. I frowned. I hadn't scheduled anything for that day. I opened the app, expecting an error, but the number staring back at me was too familiar. It matched the exact amount Aubrey once told me her rent cost. I called the bank. "Ma'am, this payment's been active for over a year," the representative said. "It's part of a bundle with utilities and 2 credit card autopays. My account is linked to multiple bills," I asked, gripping the phone tighter. "Yes, all under the same authorization profile." "Looks like you set it up." I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. When the call ended, my hands were shaking. I sat there staring at the numbers, each one landing harder than the last. Rent, electric, water, credit cards, hundreds every month, thousands over time. I drove to Aubrey's apartment that afternoon. Dylan opened the door, surprised. "Iris, everything okay? I need to speak with Aubrey." She walked out of the bedroom, annoyed. "Mom, why are you here?" "We're busy." I held up my phone. "Why is my account paying your rent?" She blinked once, twice, then forced a laugh. "Oh, I thought you knew. You said you'd help. Remember, help is different from funding your entire life." "Mom, don't make this dramatic," she said, crossing her arms. "You've always supported me. It's normal." "Is it normal?" I said, voice low, "that you linked my account without asking?" Dylan looked between us, confused. "Wait, you're paying our rent?" Aubrey shot him a warning glare. "It's temporary," I breathed out slowly. "How long has this been going on?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The silence spelled out the truth. I thought I had been helping for a month or two. The numbers told a different story over a year of rent, utilities, and credit card charges paid by me without consent. Something cracked open inside me then. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity sharp enough to hurt. I stopped paying the next morning. No warning, no explanation. Just a quiet decision, made over a cup of lukewarm coffee. 3 days later, Aubrey called. "Mom, the internet's down," she snapped. "Did you forget something I didn't forget?" I said. I stopped. Stopped what? "Paying for everything that belongs to you." There was a pause. Then a sharp inhale. "You can't just do that." "I already did." She hung up without saying goodbye. A week passed before Dylan reached out. "Iris, we got a notice from the landlord," he said, voice tight. "Past due rent." "Aubrey said you usually I don't handle your household." I cut in gently. "Not anymore." He sounded stunned. We didn't know you were the one covering it. I know. By the second week, the group chat was flooded with messages, each tone more frantic than the last. Aubrey, Mom, this is cruel. Aubrey, you know we're stressed. Aubrey, you said you'd always help me. Aubrey, why are you punishing us? I typed slowly. Me, I'm letting you stand on your own 2 feet, the way adults do. She didn't respond. On day 22, she showed up at my door. Dylan hovered behind her like he wasn't sure he should be there. You're ruining our lives, she said, trembling. You turned off the one thing we relied on. That one thing, I replied, was me. Dylan rubbed his forehead. Iris, the credit card bill came in. It's big. She said you'd cover it like usual. I won't. I said. Aubrey's eyes filled with tears, not sorrow, but disbelief. You've never done this to me. I should have done it years ago. She stepped back as if I'd struck her. Dylan didn't look angry. He looked like he was finally seeing the shape of our lives. When they left, the hallway stayed quiet. The first month without my money had begun, and the weight had finally shifted. Aubrey called on a Tuesday evening, her voice clipped and businesslike. Mom, we need to talk about your attitude, she said. Dinner at our place this Saturday, 6 o'clock. My attitude, I asked. Yes, Dylan and I agreed. This has gone too far. I almost laughed, but the sound never made it out. All right, I said. I'll be there. When the call ended, I sat at my small kitchen table and pulled out a drawer I hadn't touched in years. Receipts, statements, printed confirmations, every payment I'd made for her since she was 19. I stacked the receipts, statements, and confirmations into a neat folder, proof of every payment I'd made for her. By Friday night, the folder was full enough to press the air out of the drawer when I slid it closed. On Saturday, when I arrived at their apartment, Aubrey opened the door with a stiff smile. I'm glad you came, she said, as if she were the gracious host of a mediation. Dylan hovered behind her, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Aubrey gestured to the table. Sit. We're going to clear the air. I placed the folder beside my plate. Her eyes flicked to it. What's that? Everything you've asked me to forget. I said. Dylan swallowed. Aubrey's smile strained. For the first time in years, I didn't come empty-handed. Aubrey waited until the plates were set, the water poured, and Dylan sat down like a referee who already knew he'd lose control of the room. All right, she began, chin high. Mom, we need to settle this. Your behavior lately, it's unacceptable. My behavior, I repeated quietly. You bailed on responsibilities you've always handled, she said. You created chaos for us. Dylan shifted uneasily. Aubrey, maybe let her... No, she snapped. She needs to hear this. I slid the thick folder onto the table. Aubrey's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to be? My responsibilities. I said, all of them. I opened the folder and spread the papers out one by one across the table. Rent payments dating back over a year, electric bills, water bills, internet, insurance premiums, credit card statements. Even the interest charges from a card I'd never touched. Dylan leaned forward, eyes widening. Wait. All these payments. You've been covering them. I nodded. Paid by me. Aubrey's face drained of color. Mom, why are you doing this? I'm not attacking. I said, I'm simply showing you the reality of what I've been doing all these years. No, this is an attack. This is math. She grabbed one of the pages with shaking fingers. You're twisting this. You never said you didn't want to help. I didn't know I was expected to fund your entire household. We're your family. She shot back. And I've acted like it. I said, for years, Dylan whispered, almost to himself. This is tens of thousands of dollars. Aubrey glared at him. Don't take her side. He swallowed. Aubrey, we didn't know. I didn't know. Her voice cracked, anger bleeding into panic. You think I asked to be judged like this? I met her eyes. You didn't ask. You assumed. She slammed her palm on the table. You're making yourself the victim. No, I said softly. I'm showing you I was never the burden you called me. I was the backbone. Aubrey's breath hitched. Her eyes filled, but pride kept her from wiping the tears. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was recognition, heavy, unavoidable. I gathered the papers slowly, stacking years of my life back into order. All three of us knew something had shifted, and nothing would return to what it was. I closed the folder, slid it into my bag, and stood up from the table. Aubrey's voice wavered. Mom, where are you going? We're not finished. We are, I said, completely. Dylan rose halfway, unsure if he should follow. Iris? Wait. I shook my head. You two can handle your own lives now. Aubrey's breath hitched. You can't just walk out. I can, I said. Steady. And I'm finally choosing to. I stepped past her, feeling her shock trail behind me like a shadow. She grabbed my arm briefly, fingers trembling. Mom, don't do this, she whispered. Not angry this time, scared. I pulled my arm free. I've already done enough. Her mouth opened in protest, but no words came. Shock had frozen her voice. Dylan stood frozen, caught between us, the truth still settling over him like dust after a collapse. I left their apartment, closing the door quietly, not slamming, not running, just leaving, outside. The air felt different, lighter in a way I hadn't felt in years. I walked toward Selwood, letting the night sounds fill the space their arguments used to take. My steps were slow, steady, like my body was learning a new rhythm. As I passed familiar streets, memories rose and fell, late-night phone calls, early morning rescues, years of saying yes before Aubrey ever learned the meaning of no. I remembered holding her after nightmares, rushing her to urgent care after a fever, covering bills so she wouldn't lose her apartment, silencing alarms that never belonged to me. Those moments weren't mistakes. They were love. But love without boundaries becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice without recognition becomes erasure. Halfway home, a strange feeling settled in my chest. Relief and grief, both at once. For the first time in decades, I wasn't holding anyone up. I was just walking on my own feet. 3 weeks passed before I realized I hadn't checked my phone for any messages from Aubrey. The silence that once felt sharp now felt like room to breathe. I moved into a small one-bedroom near the river. Nothing fancy, just enough space for my books, a kitchen table, and a balcony where morning light hit the railing. When the property manager handed me the keys, he smiled. Fresh start. Ms. Calloway. I think so, I said, closing my fingers around the metal. The first week, I expected the old habits to return, listening for emergencies, checking my accounts for withdrawals, waiting for crises. Nothing came. Instead, I walked down to the community center in Selwood. A woman at the front desk looked up. You here for the gardening group I might be, I said. She laughed. That's how most of us start. The group met on Wednesdays, seniors and a few early retirees. We knelt beside raised beds and argued gently about soil mixes and watering times. One afternoon, a man named Leonard handed me a small packet. Try planting these at home, he said. They're resilient. I like resilient, I told him. By the second week, I signed up for a memoir writing class, not because I thought I had a book in me, but because the idea of telling my own story without shrinking felt new. Volunteering came next. The hospital needed help with patient check-ins. You're Iris, a nurse said when I walked in. We've heard about you. You're the one who always stayed late." I smiled. Old habits. But these hours were mine chosen, not demanded. One evening, after class, I stopped by the river. The water moved slowly, steady and unhurried. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel pulled in different directions. I just felt here. The voicemail came on a Thursday morning, just as I was finishing my coffee. My phone buzzed once, then went still. When I saw Aubrey's name, my chest tightened, not with fear, but with something calmer. Distance. I pressed play. "Mom?" Her voice cracked immediately. I don't know what to do. A breath, shaky and uneven. "Dylan and I, we're behind on everything. Rent, credit cards, even the car payment. I didn't know it was this much. I didn't know you covered so many things. I should have listened. I should have." Her voice broke again. "Mom, please, just call me." The message ended with a soft, defeated exhale. I didn't hit replay. I set the phone down. 2 hours later, Dylan called. I let it ring out. He tried again that evening and left a shorter message. "Iris, I'm sorry. I didn't know what she put on you. She's not handling this well. If you could talk to her just once, it might help." His voice held no anger, only confusion and a kind of helplessness I'd recognized for years. Still, I didn't call back. That night, while sorting a stack of gardening notes from Leonard, the phone buzzed again, another message from Aubrey, whispered like she was hiding in the hallway. "Mom, I was wrong. About everything. I didn't understand how much you—" She didn't finish. Instead of answering, I stepped onto my small balcony, breathing in the cool Portland air. I'd spent decades apologizing for things that weren't my fault. Stepping into fires I never started. Cleaning messes she never learned to face. If I answered now, nothing would change. She needed the weight of this moment, not punishment truth. The next morning, I walked to the river. A few joggers passed. A couple held hands near the railing, and somewhere behind me, a cyclist rang their bell. Ordinary sounds. Life moving. I sat on a bench, watching the water move steady and sure. The old version of me, the one who rushed, rescued, repaired, felt like a shadow loosening. My phone vibrated in my pocket, my sauce. I didn't check it. Instead, I breathed. Slow and full, letting myself take up space I'd given away for years. If this story reached you, let me know in the comments. Tap like, or subscribe for more chapters of real lives and second chances. Now that my life finally belongs to me, where do I want to walk next?